It's October 7th, and we're excited to have three presentations to share with you all today. We have our recent addition to the CodeX Fellow Group, Michal Mankowski, who is a professor at Erasmus School of Economics, talk about the Organ TX project, which he started here at CodeX. Then we have Ori Shimoni, the co-founder of DAO, which is a DAO-run software developer collective, talk about their work in the NFT and DeFi space. And we have Youssef Kassim, the CEO of Illegal, talk about easy expunctions. Apologies. So three great presentations, and so it'll be a fast-paced meeting. We have an hour, so each presentation will be 20 minutes long, and I hope that the speakers will leave also enough time for folks to ask questions. Before I turn it over to Michal, anyone in the group have any news to share with the rest? Bruce, please go ahead.
Just really fast. So Pip Ryan invited me to have a midnight sojourn in Australia last night, our time, 11:30 our time, to talk about space law, space treaties, commercial space gaps, and what we can do about it. And it was just super fun to have, CodeX bridge as it does, Roland, the divide in time and space. For space. So that happened last night with 90 people on the webinar.
Great. Well, yeah, maybe if there's a recording or something that you could share.
I think they did. I think they recorded it. I'll ask Pip. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. All right, let me turn it over to Michal if you're there.
Yep, I'm here. I cannot turn on my camera for some reason. I think it's blocked by the host, but now it's unblocked. Yep, I'm here.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Ronald. And okay, so I will go ahead.
Yes, and please, you have 20 minutes, but please, if you could sort of keep your presentation to maybe a half of that, and to keep the rest for discussion, that would be great.
Yes, actually, probably I was prepared for something longer, but I will try to be fast and concise, and so we can talk a bit.
Fantastic. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, CodeX, for this opportunity to give this talk and to kind of bring me on board to the family. So I'm Michal Mankowski. You can call me Mike as well. Maybe that's easier. I'm assistant professor of operations research at Erasmus School of Economics in Rotterdam, Netherlands. I'm also a research fellow at Epidemiology Research Group in Organ Transplantation at Johns Hopkins, and actually this presentation it's going to be about the organ transplantation, and most of my research I'm doing together with Johns Hopkins Med School. As Roland mentioned, I'm a new non-residential fellow at CodeX, working and showing the possible application of computational law to organ transplantation. My training is not in a medical field, not in the law, but in computer science. So that's my way of contributing. So I think the organ transplantation is a very new field for a CodeX and kind of unexpected, I think. But to me, the field itself is very interesting. So actually, it spans many other different fields. So of course, it's a medical field. We have very advanced procedures, multidisciplinary teams consisting of surgeons, nephrologists, immunologists, name it. It's not only the medicine, it's ethics as well. So let's leave it aside, definition of death, that's not our consideration, but a lot of other interesting ethical trade-offs comes from one quite unfortunate feature of organ transplantation, which is the scarcity of organs. So the scarcity of organs is going to be kind of a theme of this presentation, and actually it's like the fundamental, which basically then we rely on our research and organization legislation around the organ transplantation. So unfortunately, there is not enough organs for everyone. So then we have to first choose who is going to get this organ, and then this choice have to be organized and put into the law to make it happen. So organ transplantation is also one of the most regulated fields in medicine. I would claim that. First, of course, we need to ensure the very transparent access and equitable access to transplantation. There is a lot of international collaboration and cooperation, which is not easy when you want to travel with organs. Try to do that. It's not easy at all. Of course, we want to prevent organ trade. Interesting fact, so there is only one country in the world that allows to sell organs legally. It's Iran. All other countries prohibits to sell to organs. So in Iran, you can sell your kidney, but not in any other country, at least legally. But let's come back to the US. So in the US, we have currently over 100,000 people waiting for organs. And each year we do about 40,000 transplants. Unfortunately, about 7,000 people each year die while waiting for organ. So for the deceased donation, we have this kind of 3 stages of organ transplantation. Everything is governed in terms of the law by National Organ Transplantation Act, NOTA Act. So first the organ becomes available, it's procured, so that's organ donation. Then, this is kind of the main interest of us, it's organ allocation. So when we have organ, we have to choose a patient, a candidate, who is going to receive this organ, and then the organ goes to the transplant center, to the hospital for the surgery. But okay, so we established that, unfortunately, again, to say so, there is not enough organs. So who should be first in line? So often you might think like, okay, maybe the most sick. But let's say there are some groups, vulnerable groups, that want to increase access for those people for organs, let's say pediatric patients. So what about pediatric patients? They should be given some priority maybe, but what about the case that we have the kidney or a liver and an organ from the old donor? Shall we give the old kidney to the pediatric patient, or maybe we should wait a bit and for the younger donor? So there is a lot of considerations, the same efficiency of the system itself. So maybe the most sick and the most pediatric patients is in Florida, while the organ is procured in Washington State or California. Can we fly? Or that's first questions about the cost, but also the quality of the organ decreases with the transportation time. So that's a lot of questions to answer, and there is way more to consider. So what's the message? It's not easy to choose who is going to get the organ. So how it's executed in terms of the policy and law? We have organ allocation policies. So each organ has its own allocation policy, which explicitly tell us who is going to get the organ first. So when the organ becomes available, we have multiple candidates waiting for this organ. And then kind of the role of organ allocation policy is to provide the order of the candidates. So the policy tells us exact order in which we should offer the kidney to candidates. So that's the role of organ allocation policies. And US legal system puts a lot of requirements on organ allocation policies. Of course, they should be based on the sound medical judgment. We should avoid wasting organs. We should promote patients' access to transplantation. We should have efficient management. And also there is one of the very interesting requirements that the organ allocation policies shall not be based on or access to organ transplantation shall not be based on candidates' place of residence, which is unfortunately not true. So last couple of years, there's a huge game in organ transplantation about geographical disparities. So for those folks based in Stanford or in Palo Alto, I have bad news, because California has very long waiting times for almost all organs. So let's say there's a good example of Steve Jobs, who was in a need for kidney. So even though he was living in Northern California, he registered himself in Tennessee. And you can guess, if you're living in Northern California, Tennessee is not transplant center in Tennessee, it's not your closest transplant center. But of course, why? So maybe we can register everyone in California in Tennessee. Not really, it's not a solution because not everyone has private jet to fly within a couple of hours after receiving a call to a transplant center that deliver it's ready for you. So there is a lot of considerations and movement for changes, but let's leave this on the side. So currently, organ allocation policies in the US consist of about 400 pages of very detailed regulations. Every organ has its own allocation policy due to different biology, different features of each organ. So those policies are pretty different. And actually, also they're changing quite frequently. So the changes in policy are very frequent, sometimes driven by new advances in medicine, sometimes and actually very frequently recently by lawsuits. So it's very kind of dynamic policy in the field. To give some kind of high-level idea on the organ allocation policy, I just want to show like a small part of the US allocation, liver allocation policy. So to allocate liver in the US, we use 221 different classifications of patients. So basically we group candidates, patients into 221 different groups, which are ordered. And then within each of this group, we used, depending on the situation, 2 to 5 different scores to sort the patients again. So the system is just what I want to sell here. The system is complex. When you have over 200 groups of patients and then you use 5 scores to group them within those groups. So, and of course we have a lot of special cases, exceptions, and so forth. So where we can use the computational law to those organ allocation policies or to organ transplantation field in general. So as I showed on the previous slide, organ allocation policies are very complex. So I believe that turning them into a computational law would allow for consistency check. Are current organ allocation policies consistent? We don't know, we hope. But there's a lot of tools from computer science, from engineering that we can have like kind of model check of those organ allocation policies to ensure that having, let's say, grouping those patients and ordering those patients, we don't skip any patient. Or let's say we don't make a situation that the patient appears twice on a waiting list. That shouldn't also happen. What is important, those organ allocation policies are executed by software. So whenever the organ becomes available, the national software generates the list. So exactly, no, there's no physician thinking and grouping using these 221 groups. It's a software which executes the policy. So to me, it's natural to have the policy in a computational form, then which is basically then executed by software. And of course, also like we can using the Complo, we can kind of boost transparency by introducing more of visualization. These are some of the crucial part of the policy. But of course, we can boost the, we can increase the consistency check. We can have their deployment. But to me, all of it is about the trust. So trust is very important in organ transplantation. And unfortunately, we had some kind of break of this trust in multiple cases. So where actually Complo could help us. So in 2016, for 30 days, one of the scores used for allocation of kidneys was incorrectly programmed. So the system was overestimating the score. And as a result, it's estimated that about 19 kidneys have been discarded due to this error. So using computational law, we could avoid at least some of these errors. Not very computational example, but actually Germany, besides having very good medical system, it's not doing great in organ donation, organ transplantation. So in 2012, they had a case that the doctor was falsifying medical files to speed up, to kind of push up on the ladder his patients. and that was a huge controversy. Okay, so brief action plan, because I'm kind of opening the project on computational organ allocation policies with CodeX. So first action plan is to choose the computational technology and strategy feasible for organ allocation policies. Then I want to write a paper on comp law in organ allocation policies, but what is important to medical journal. So physicians, which are often also the policymakers, they don't read law journals or tech journals. It has to go to medical journal. And then at the end, I want to publish some kind of guideline for national organ transplantation agencies, introducing the idea and of computational law in organ allocation policies, and maybe introducing the idea, and then maybe directing them to me or to CodeX that we could contribute and help. And actually, talking about technology, I've had quite a long discussion with Meng Wang, which I believe he's like ex-CodeX fellow or ex-CodeX family member. And he decided on one of the technologies, it's decision model annotation system. And I think it seems to be feasible for organ allocation policies, although I'm not an expert in this technology. But I reached out to some of the computer scientists which actually work quite a lot in DMAs. So actually next Tuesday I'm heading to Belgium for kind of our 1 day a small internal workshop to investigate whether we can use decision model annotation in organ transplantation policies. If yes, then we'll kind of work on that. Okay, thank you so much. That's it, and probably we have about 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, this is perfect. Thank you so much for staying in the allotted time. So this is great, and you're right. This is like our CodeX is the first foray into the organ transplantation field, but it's also so exciting to see, this very important and interesting area being an interesting application opportunity for computational law. And so to figure out how to turn those policies and rules that govern this marketplace into a system that computers can reason with, where updates could be made in a fairly quick turnaround time if needed. That all seems like a great area to use computational law technology. But anyways, this is great, and thanks for also outlining your plans. I think this is sort of also an invitation for the rest of the group to basically express an interest if they want to get involved in this work. And it's great that you're talking to Meng already. Meng is still current non-residential CodeX fellow. So folks, anyone have any questions for Michal?
Yeah, Michal, this is great work. It's Brusqueja. Welcome aboard. How do you see the automation of feedback loops to see whether the prediction of survivability and quality of life was accurate so as to improve the algorithm? How do you see that working when the health statistics are so unfair, frankly, and unrepresentative of different minority groups, different geographies? How do you see that going?
Okay, so what you're talking about is basically it happens before the organ allocation policy is agreed. I'm not claiming to develop the new allocation policies. It's not my role. It's the system of creating allocation policies. It's very structured. It's very organized. It's voted by the contractor to HRSA, so to the government. So the system, our role is to have this text that gives you the order of patients and translate it to the comp law, to the computational law that basically can be, check for consistency, directly deployed. But my role, that's my other part of my research, is to suggest what to do. Let's see how to change the allocation policies to boost equity, and that's like a big game, especially in the US, let's say racial disparities and so forth. But in our project here, we're not meant to win, we don't decide on those trade-offs. We are given those trade-offs, we're given the policy on paper, but what we think it shouldn't be on a paper, it should be in a code as well. So we don't, here in this project, we don't decide, we don't change these priorities, we don't say about the priority, we just want to make this priority from the table on the PDF to be kind of computationally digested.
Got it. Thank you. Anyone else has any questions for Michal? So, what was I going to say? So, you're saying that, there's like sort of panels of doctors who
Yes,
have
like
developed the policies already, right? And but there are real shortcomings in sort of applying the policy. And are there already like computational systems in play that are used to apply those policies?
Yeah, so the system. So as I mentioned, that's the order, kind of the order of the patients, or the real execution of those allocation policies are done by the software. So
Right.
So that's the thing. But the problem is that the physicians, it's like a physician, policymakers, lawyers basically agree on these policies, and then this is kind of translated at some point to the software. And
Right.
every translation is like a possible mistake. Moreover, before deciding on the policy, they have like a kind of a research tools for simulating the impact of these policies. So first the policy is simulated, then it's voted, and then executed. So I wish, and there's like at least 2 translations between research software, simulation software to voting to the text. So from code to the text, and from text again to the code. So I wish to have a computational form of this policy that basically we can ensure consistency, that and avoid mistakes, that we basically simulate the same, we vote on the same, and we deploy the same policy. There's no translation, and of course all this like consistency check and so forth.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
Got it. I see. You know, we have to move on to our next presenters, but I see folks are already texting some questions in the chat. So it'd be great, Michal, if you could respond to the chat.
Yeah.
Please also put in your contact info so that if people wanted to follow up with you, they can reach out directly.
Yes. So thank you, Roland. And yes, of course, if anyone is interested, please reach me out or ask me anything. And yeah, thank you so much again.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Michal. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
It's a very cool project. And all right, so folks, let's start with our next presentation, which is going to be from Ori. Ori, are you there?
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Good. Where are you? Oh, here you are.
Over here.
Can you turn on your video?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hey, welcome.
Thanks.
All right,
yeah, I'll
so
share my screen.
Over to you. We're excited to learn what you're up to.
Yeah, hey everyone. So I'm going to be talking about DAOs, and specifically a DAO that I helped get started a couple of years ago called DAO, which is focused on developing in the blockchain space. And so I'm not sure how familiar everyone here is with the concept of DAOs. So I'll do a quick overview there, but really breeze through that so we can get more into how our particular use case works in practice, which can kind of help you get a better understanding of the design space and what others in the kind of ecosystem are doing. Yeah, so for me, like DAOs are really the holy grail of what blockchain enables. You know, if Bitcoin was just digital money, and Ethereum is a general purpose computational layer for trustless transactions, DAOs kind of are the ultimate use case for Ethereum, in my view. They're basically organizations that are defined by code that can manage financial resources and let people basically make decisions together and govern systems, software, work digitally with no paperwork or with minimal kind of legal scaffolding. So yeah, you may be familiar with kind of this concept to varying degrees, so I won't spend too much time on the background of DAOs. You can get some high level ideas of what the benefits here are. It's kind of this completely different paradigm than what we're used to when we think of organizations. Everything is software based, and you don't have to rely on external authorities and armies and courts and intermediaries. You kind of just have the software kind of handling all the complexity in the middle, and you have people on the edges handling any parts that are require humans, right? So it's usually DAOs are set up for the benefit of the people that set them up, and there's like a lot of kind of there's a big design space there. And so yeah, at a high level, I've kind of broken it down as yeah, you have sort of like the shares that people have in the DAO, and there's kind of a million different mechanisms you can use for defining shares, whatever that means. There could be multiple classes, or it could be transferable or non-transferable, vested, but you have some way of like user input and kind of weighting of input, and then some logic that defines the outputs that can happen. So deciding to spend money, deciding to update a document, deciding to accept a new member or change the share distribution, or even change the rules of the DAO itself. And yeah, there you can kind of go crazy with this. It's all been evolving really rapidly over the last couple of years. I'm gonna skip the history of DAOs, which is pretty interesting, but yeah, you can find a lot of resources online to kind of learn about the evolution of DAOs. You know, the past couple of years, it's really, you know, 4 or 5 years old, the design space. But yeah, right now we're kind of in an interesting inflection point where they've gone from sort of niche, like intellectual curiosity, kind of subsector of blockchain, into like, you know, at least mainstream within the crypto world. Not quite yet in the broader world, but they're finally finding sort of a product market fit beyond the hobbyists that are interested in it from like a conceptual perspective. And so yeah, we have like a maturing infrastructure stack. I found this online from Boardroom, which is like a DAO decision-making aggregator. Not pictured here. There's also one called deepdao.io, where you can see all the, like a lot of different DAOs that it indexes, see what they're doing, see what their cash flows are like, what their membership is like, what kind of proposals they're voting on, or other mechanisms that they have integrated. Yeah, and you can see like a tiny slice of a landscape here, again, provided by Boardroom here. There's kind of various people have attempted over the last couple of years to make taxonomies of the DAO space, and it keeps changing all the time because new kind of categories are emerging that we didn't even think about before. So I guess one of the newest ones are kind of like curator DAOs because of the NFT explosion earlier this year. There's been like a upswing of DAOs that are being formed just to like pool funds to purchase NFTs together, or to like play games together with the recent like gaming craze in blockchain. But yeah, kind of the oldest idea of DAO really was like the investor DAO, where it's kind of the decentralized software-based VC. So people on the internet pool their money together and decide together how they're gonna deploy that money, probably like to make a return. And then there's also grant DAOs, which are pooling money to donate to causes they care about. Yeah, and here's just another, you know, landscape take from the internet. Yeah, you can see Dorg featured here, which I'm going to talk about shortly. And yeah, here, kind of in the guild layer here and in the service layer here. And yeah, so here's like my simplified kind of taxonomy. I mean, it's going to change over the next couple of years, but like I said, you have the capital allocators, and then you have the kind of product development / platform maintenance DAOs. So they're either building marketplaces or financial protocols or governing them. And you can imagine like the Uber of the future or the Facebook of the future will be this user-owned, user-governed DAO, right? That's constantly has a changing membership pool and all these like autonomous systems for governing the rules of the platform. Maybe in like a social media case, it's the moderation policy, or maybe there's like a random selection jury system to decide on like banning users. And then recently social clubs have kind of taken off. There's one called Friends with Benefits where you have to hold the token to be able to access their private forums, and then also to attend real world events, and then various other benefits. And kind of the space that I've been playing in for the past couple of years is in professional services. So 2.5 years ago, at the start of 2019, a group of engineers that we had all met at different like crypto conferences, we decided to leave our jobs and then form this development collective. And we wanted to do so as a DAO because we were interested in building kind of DAO tooling, infrastructure, and everything that surrounds that, like the whole Web3 space of digital assets and non-fungible assets, things like that, and developer tools. Yeah, so kind of like where we've gotten to today, we've grown a lot. It was originally like 3 or 4 of us, and we've kind of gotten a more robust, continuous process for activating people that I'll go through in a minute. And so, yeah, more and more people are joining from around the world. We're generating like actual revenue that's sustaining the livelihood of dozens of people. And yeah, it's been 2.5 years. And we worked with Oliver, who I think is in the call here from Vermont, on like a really novel legal entity to make sure that we could actually operate as a DAO, but still be compliant, with US law and international law, because they're like, when we started DORG in the beginning of 2019, like I said earlier, DAOs were kind of this intellectual curiosity. There were some DAO tools out there, very nascent, very hobbyist focused. And we really wanted to like run an actual organization with real money, real people working on real things. And so we knew that, we'd need to report our taxes, and we need to have limited liability, so that if like a client like had a claim, there wasn't unlimited liability for each individual participant. And also, most importantly for us, since we are a professional service provider, we needed to be able to contract as a single legal person with corporations. So our customers were startups mostly, but they needed to sign a services agreement with a counterparty, and we couldn't just say, hey, we're from the internet, trust us, just send the money to this Ethereum address and we'll jointly manage it and deliver on your project. A lot of them actually wanted like a legal counterparty. Yeah, so we've since then worked on tons of really cool projects, some highlights, a lot of DeFi things like Balancer here. It's cool alternative social network we're working with called Minds. We're helping them with their token economics and the Web3 integration layer with the social network. Gnosis Safe, which I think is probably the most popular DApp, with like tens of billions of dollars being secured by the Gnosis Safe. So we help them with extensions of the Gnosis Safe. It's kind of transforming into a DAO framework in itself. But yeah, it's a multi-sig that people use. Aragon is a DAO framework, DAOstack is a DAO framework. For Tezos, we built a DAO framework as well. Opolis is a really cool project. It's basically crypto-based benefits for self-employed people. So yeah, we help them with maintaining their platform and adding new features, and especially on the kind of Web3 integration layer, kind of connecting it to different L2s so people can process their payroll through that. Yeah, doing good here is an NFT marketplace. We work with another NFT marketplace as well, Starkworth and L2 that's become popular lately. So yeah, we have our hands kind of like all over the Web3 stack. And we've really been curating this group of projects, and then also this group of mostly engineers, also the designers and project managers, to be executing and kind of showing like the potential of DAOs. Like, hey, we're running this company completely transparently and with complete software defined rules of engagement, and it's going pretty well. So that's really always been the goal. And you can kind of see some of the things that we do for clients here. And then on the right, it's kind of the maintenance tasks to keep the organization running that we still have to take care of. And at the bottom here, I separated out recruiting and sales, which kind of have like special incentives that are baked into the whole unit economics of the system, which I'll go through in a minute. Yeah, and really like I'll focus in this talk on the builder perspective. So yeah, I kind of give you a background on DAOs and what we're doing. And then quickly, if I have time, yeah, I'll run through our kind of builder handbook and show what the experience is like for someone who discovers us on the internet or has a friend that works with us and then wants to come in and join and start contributing, and kind of like what it's like to actually work for a DAO or work full-time for a DAO. Yeah, some cool things here are we have sourcing incentives for bringing in new projects and new members. We kind of pool our money to pay for benefits like hiring tax preparers that are really familiar with what we do that can like help individual members, kind of funding merch so we can like rep DORG wherever we go. And also a couple members have launched their own startups and then use DORG as the development capacity to execute. So maybe a member has an idea that they've been kind of working on the side, and they go and start it. They found it, maybe they raise money for it, and then they hire DORG since they kind of know and trust that developer network. Cool, so I'll kind of go really quickly. I think I have some more time before questions through our handbook. So yeah, it kind of lays out our mission, like what we do. We keep everything hyper transparent, like every little thing about how we work is out there, other than the aspects that would be like sensitive client data. This is kind of like what we believe in. And here's kind of like the overview of structurally how it's set up. So like I said, the unit economics are simple, but they incentivize what we need. So every dollar that comes in from a client, 10% goes to the sourcing team that kind of closed that deal and is kind of maintaining the relationship there. And then 10% is kept by the DAO's treasury. And then 80% goes into its own wallet that the builders on that team control. So the builders that are actually like developing the software, managing the project, designing the UI, so that all gets split up kind of on chain in different wallets that are controlled by different signers. Yeah, and the actual way the system is governed is quite novel. We came up with this concept of lifetime earnings weighted governance, where every dollar you earn from DORG, you also earn one rep, which is kind of our shares. They're non-transferable, and they basically give you voting power, and they also give you a share in like bonuses that we do on a quarterly basis. So yeah, the voting is basically for how we spend the treasury and the approval of new client projects, the approval of new builders who want to join. That's like kind of most of the decision making. And yeah, the airdrops are kind of token airdrops that our clients will send us as part of those agreements. So a little portion of what the client's paying as a bonus gets shared with all the members in proportion to how much they've earned in their entire career with DORG. I'll probably stop there. There's a lot of details here that I could spend a lot of time going into, but I'm really curious to get questions. So just last point, yeah, this is our workflow is kind of like the process of getting started, being activated, getting onboarded. We have a process for deactivating members, so it stays like more tight knit, and so that people that aren't working as much can kind of leave. And then, yeah, joining client projects, sourcing new client projects, managing the project. We have a tech lead badge, so we need at least like one more experienced member on every project. So yeah, we've been gradually iterating on all of these processes to just make the experience as good as possible for builders and for the clients. And I think the managing as a DAO has been a huge part of that, because everyone who comes in becomes a part owner, and then the more they work, they become a bigger and bigger part owner. And if they stop working, their ownership relative to others will go down because of that lifetime's earning weighted share system. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Ori. This is really fascinating. I'm curious, when you talk about this concept of lifetime earnings, so you have a collective of people who are writing code and executing, and income is sort of distributed among them. And how is that sort of done in an algorithmic way too, in terms of like measuring the value that the specific contributors added to a specific project, or is it just based on sort of time of involvement?
Yeah, so we have like kind of standard practices around distribution of funds, but nothing mandated from the organizational level. As I was saying, every project has its own wallet. So we push that decision making on how to allocate funds for a given project to like a more local level. So let's say like a client pays 20,000 USDC, that goes into that wallet. The 10% gets collected by the DORG safe. And then, yeah, it's up to those builders. They have all signature rights on that wallet to decide how they split up the money. So maybe that was given for a 6-week sprint that we're going to do with this client on designing this and building that. And so for the most part, what we do is just hourly. So part of the agreement with the client will have like a statement of work that lays out like the different amounts of hours that are going to be spent by the different people on it and kind of what their rates are. And they could all like choose a rate that the sourcing person will then kind of combine into a statement of work for the client. And then as they do the work, they'll do send outs from that wallet to each other. And so there ends up not being a lot of conflict around how to distribute the funds because it's pushed to such a small level that there's no more than maybe 7 people or 8 people in the biggest project making that decision on how to split up the funds. And so usually they can say, okay, you know, I've been working 20 hours a week on this. You've been working 10 hours a week on this. You know, my rate might be lower because I'm more junior in this skill and maybe you have a more rare skill. So all that kind of stuff gets figured out with the statement of work. And then it's becomes like kind of easy just using basic spreadsheets to come up with the amounts different people are owed. But then everyone has to sign off on like the multi-send transaction to get that out of the wallet.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So you guys are organized like a DAO, but most of your customers are DAOs themselves, right? So that's did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, that was always the idea at the beginning though, like for the first year and a half, there weren't many other real DAOs. So we just basically worked with startups, you know, that usually were pretty centralized and traditional. But in the last year, we've been able to work with more and more DAOs, which has been kind of interesting.
Oh, so you were providing services to just standard startups that were doing things on the Web 2.0 things even?
No, actually, all of them were doing Web3, but on the back end, they were organized traditionally, right? So it's just a typical Delaware C Corp building blockchain software with a CEO, and the CEO kind of agrees to hire us, and then
okay, but it was all blockchain projects. Okay.
All blockchain projects, but now we're actually starting to work DAO to DAO, which has been a fun challenge.
Got it. Okay, so that we're a little bit sort of running short on time, but Dan has a question, Bruce has a question, and Nonopa. I think maybe it'd be great if you could try to answer them in the chat, just so we sort of
are
able to allocate the time fairly among all the speakers. But this is really fascinating what you do, Ori. It's really cool, and it's amazing that you're getting so much traction. And so yes, please, if you could put in your contact information so that folks could reach out to you directly, and it would be fantastic if you could try to answer the questions in the chat. Well, thank you so much, Ori. It's great to have you. Thanks again. All right, so. All right, and let me turn it over to Youssef if you're there. Youssef, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Roland.
Hello. There you are. Okay, great to see you. And yeah, so we're very curious to learn about the expunctions and what you're working on.
Excellent. Well, I think it's not letting me share because I think Ori is still sharing.
Ori, could you please unshare? Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Youssef Kassem. I'm the CEO of EasyExpunctions.com, the company that provides individuals with a clear path to a clear record. Here today with my business partner and our chief legal officer, Reed Yonkers, another fellow attorney.
Hello, great to see y'all.
Yeah.
Hey.
So about Illegal Inc. We're a company whose motto is justice through data. Today we have a consumer-facing product that allows individuals to take action over items on their criminal record. Show y'all. Believe it or not, there's over 70 million American adults today who have an arrest record. Having an arrest record holds you back from getting a job, accessing safe housing even causes damage to your reputation and self-esteem. Expunctions as a form of relief provide individuals with two main rights. Essentially, one is the right to deny that arrest ever occurred, and two is the right to prohibit possession or distribution of that information by others. And although this is a obviously very valuable form of relief, only a fraction of folks that qualify today to get this relief are actually getting it done. I would know how difficult this process is because I had to go through the expunction process myself before I became an attorney. At the time, it was a very difficult process. It took me a long time to research and understand what the process looked like, what legal documents I needed, where I needed to file, who I needed to notice. But the feeling that I had when I left the courthouse was really unforgettable. And I wanted to deliver that same feeling to others. That same year, I enrolled in law school and became an attorney, and I purchased the domain name easyexpunctions.com and didn't really do anything with it, except for pay GoDaddy. They're $8.99 every year. And after I graduated, filed a patent for the system, method, and process that we use. We were recently awarded that patent earlier this year, and began working on this company in Austin, Texas. We developed the first and only online platform that allows individuals to run a background check, determine their eligibility for expunction or some sort of record relief, depending on the market, and then generate high quality specific legal documents and file them electronically for you. We provide 100% money-back guarantee, so we'll guarantee your outcome. So we're empowering pro se litigants to represent themselves. We're handling the most difficult parts of that process, and then making a resource available for folks in the event that they have questions, and providing the confidence of a guaranteed outcome. In addition to providing a more low-cost solution than attorneys, we provide an outcome that is certain, if we determine that you're eligible. But we also feel that it's a more comprehensive solution. So I mentioned earlier that when you receive an expunction, you get the right to deny, right to prohibit possession or distribution. The issue is that there are a lot of private companies out there that traffic in this information. And so a lot of folks were receiving expunctions, but still seeing their records floating around. And so we developed a solution that notices private companies, background check companies, mugshot websites, in order to remove all traces of your record, both on the government level, but also online and in background checks. We provided a product for folks who don't qualify that at least reduces your online footprint. This is also a product that's available to anyone, whether you've been arrested or not, and you just don't want your information floating around online. Got a wonderful team of software developers, attorneys, sales and marketing professionals who are all passionate about access to justice and providing second chances. A wonderful team of advisors, partners, investors that really believe in the work that we're doing, and really excited about not only the traction that we've had so far, but the opportunity ahead. And so thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share our story today with the CodeX community, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has. And if we don't have enough time, feel free to email me if you have any further questions or otherwise would like to connect.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Yusuf. This is super interesting, and appreciate you being, staying in the time. It's how long has the company been out in the market, and what kind of like an uptake are you seeing, and how do you reach the people you want to reach?
Yeah, so we've offered our product to customers starting in 2015. And today we do a little over $2 million annually in sales. We find most of our customers online. And so folks who are looking to get this done, and also through partnerships with organizations that we work with that are able to fund this for individuals who otherwise can't afford it. And so organizations, such as Goodwill here in Texas, to provide, expunction services for folks who need it.
Got it. Cool. Sometimes, with companies, it's sort of, they start in a particular area and then they, sort of clear what sort of the adjacent opportunities are. And you said there are groups that are they don't clearly qualify for expunctions, but they might still benefit from, sort of trying to clean up the web in, some records that are not favorable. And that seems to be sort of the first kind of adjacent market, but is that correct? And what's next for this effort? Are you just sort of trying to reach out? There's so many people to reach with this product. You don't have to think about sort of the next kind of groups, or what's the ideal trajectory that you see for your business?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of opportunities in the legal tech space today. Right now, we're focused on the criminal side of the law. So developing, products and services based on this platform in order to automate the background check. We provide a free nationwide background check for individuals for themselves when they create an account on our website. In order to, do the qualification, automatically in order to generate these documents, we've had to build this platform that's able to take in criminal history information from a variety of sources, go through an ETL process, and then our algorithms to be able to determine whether there's a form of relief available for that individual. And so we feel like this platform can be adapted for a variety of uses for attorneys, nonprofit organizations, government entities that want to make sense out of this criminal history information, and maybe develop other products to provide access to justice to folks in that criminal space. So we've worked with organizations who are in their intake process. So like Goodwill, for example, we built for them a portal that allows their counselors to run a more mission-oriented background check that provides them the information that they need in order to take action and help those individuals. We've worked with background check companies on compliance services. I think we are thinking with a big vision on the products and services, and expunctions are really just the beginning. So.
Got it. And you said people can run their own basically criminal records check too, so that so you potentially sort of disintermediating those other players. So if I'm hired at a new company, I could say, look, I ran my own criminal records check. It's been verified by illegal, and so the employer doesn't need to go through one of those other vendors. Is that sort of the idea?
No, not at this time. I wouldn't say that, but this does provide benefit to the individual. And so knowing that 90% of major employers run background checks today, I think it's generally a good idea to run one on yourself first, see what they are going to see, and put yourself in a position to be more competitive.
I see. Oh, got it. Okay. And okay. Anyone else have any questions for Youssef? There's another.
Yeah, Rowan. I wondered. This is fantastic, Youssef. What do you see if you were to put together a demographic map of the folks who need EE and the folks that use EE? who are you reaching and who aren't you reaching? Have you looked at the demographics for that?
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Bruce. That's a great question. As far as the folks that we're reaching, very diverse customer base. So we've had, folks who, all different backgrounds, all different education levels, all different, even language skills. Their one commonality is a successful result. And so, we feel that confident in our product that, we could help, anybody as long as they meet the statutory requirements. We understand that injustice aside, a certain outcome can be expected there. About 50 to 60% of our customers are Black and Latino, like over 50% of our employee base here. And so I think it's important for us to be able to empathize with our customers, understand that this is a difficult process, and that, most of the time folks aren't being proactive about, expunctions, they're being reactive. They just applied for a job, missed out, and now they really need this done yesterday. And so we recognize that. I think the folks that we're not helping, that we really would like to help, are folks who, still can't afford our service. Today, we, still subsidize the cost of expunctions for folks in order to provide that lower cost. And, our price, we try to come in, close to about a quarter of the cost of an attorney, but still provide, the same outcome, if not, better in our opinion. But there are folks that are still priced out. And so, love to, identify opportunities with legal aid clinics, with nonprofit organizations, folks who are better positioned to fund, these expunctions, because there's a lot of folks out there, I think, want to get this done and who could benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I could see you going to any of the major technology companies that are wanting to help folks who have been recidivists or recovering from that experience and saying, we'll clean up your record, and then we will onboard you as a trainee. So I think corporations might actually find your service an incredible valuable one, because you do clean the record.
I agree, Bruce. And, anybody who's, listening today that can facilitate any connections for us, we'd really appreciate it. We think there's a lot of organizations today who are correctly recognizing the importance of second chance hiring. And so we believe that we provide an opportunity for these organizations to, reconcile their words with action. And so starting with their own employees. And so, integrating us into, their HR process to identify in bulk folks that we can help, and, funding those at their organization, or even integrating during the hiring process, to make folks more hireable, that you otherwise wanted to hire, but maybe because of policy reasons aren't able to while that record is still there.
I have actually a number more. It's just so interesting. I have a number of more questions. But first of all, how much does the service cost on average for a user?
So it's free to create an account, and that gets you a background check, and then $20 to purchase what we call an eligibility report. And so this is essentially a before and after. It'll tell you not only what's on your record, but what relief is available to you according to the law. And then if you are eligible and you'd like to move forward, it's about $500 to get this done with us. And then if you have multiple offenses, you start to receive a discount. We provide 0 interest payment plans for customers. We're in the business of removing barriers. And so we're constantly looking for ways to make this more accessible to people. And, but yeah, we think the $20 report is super valuable because, at least lets you know where you stand. You don't have the obligation to move forward, but we feel bad for folks who, maybe go out and, they're low on hope, and they might hire an attorney that tells them something like, give me a couple $1,000s, I'll try my best, but no guarantees. Year passes, you lose this money, and then they say, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. We let you know up front, with a level of confidence, whether we can help or not. And if we can't, we think knowing that information is valuable too.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, so we're pretty much at the end of our time. And this is, such a cool project too. And you said, so thanks for sharing your email here. Folks, if you have more questions for Youssef or any of our other presenters today, please reach out to them directly. It was a really fascinating conversation today, from computational law in organ transactions to DAOs to expunctions. Really amazing work that you're all doing, and you're really sort of pushing forward innovation agenda in the legal space, and really thank you for sharing with our group. And on behalf of everyone, I'll give you a quick round of applause. Please keep us posted on your progress, and hopefully we can talk again in the future.
Thank you so much, Roland. It was a pleasure, being here today, and appreciate the opportunity, and we'd love to be back anytime. So
sounds great. Thank you, Youssef.
Thank you so much.
See you all next week.
Actually, Roland, if I could, we're actually going to be back for the group meetings on October 28th. Next week, catch us for Meet CodeX on Tuesday. And check your email. There should be an email in there with a link to register, or look at the law school calendar at law.stanford.edu/events.
And I have also an announcement. Actually, we're looking for a software engineer to hire at CodeX. If you know anyone who wants to come and work with us on computable contracts, specifically as applied in the insurance industry, please reach out to us. All right. Well, good to see you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.